I bought a Reborn doll after I lost my baby. I think I made a grave mistake. My husband and I had been trying for a baby for the longest time. Yeah, I know you're probably going to laugh at that sentence. I've been married to Matthew for 3 years now. I've been trying to get pregnant for such a long time, but to no avail. My gynecologist told me that my eggs haven't been able to mature properly, which has made conception more challenging. So when I noticed that I was feeling nauseous and my period was nowhere to be seen, I took a test. And it's no surprise that I was happy. I did everything to make sure this baby came out of my womb healthy. And I mean everything. I have no idea where I failed, if it was even my fault. The doctors told me that the baby would be born sick from a congenital heart defect, and its chances of survival were low. They told me to abort it and save myself the trouble of going through the grief of your child dying and instead deal with the one of losing a fetus. But this wasn't just a fetus to me. This was my child. This might be my only chance to ever truly be a mother. My mother had always wanted to be a grandmother, and I didn't want to disappoint her. Ever since I was a child, she'd tell me, "Wait until you see how it is to be a mother. And I can't wait for you to give me a grandchild." Well, why can't you just adopt? Some people would ask me, and the answer to that is I want to raise a child that has my own blood flowing through it. I have nothing against people that decide to adopt, but I just couldn't see myself doing that. Oh, how much I regret that now. Going into labor was one of the most difficult things I've gone through. Some women report not remembering what the pain felt like, or they straight up claim giving birth isn't as bad as some people make it out to be. That was far from the truth for me. I felt as if I was trying to push a rock out of my stomach, through an opening that was not meant by nature to have a being that big pass through it. I felt as if I was being broken apart. My entire soul was torn open with a rusty knife, with no anesthetic and no mercy whatsoever. I decided to go the natural way too, so no C-sections. I really thought I knew better than my doctors, who have had experience with women in my position for years and have paid thousands of dollars to get the education they have to be where they are. Please, make it stop. It hurts. Those were some of my words. I want to go C-section. Please. I begged them, but to no avail.
"I'm sorry, miss, but it's too late for that. Come on, you're almost there. We know you can do it,"
said one of the medical professionals. I was holding Matt's hand for dear life. I gripped it so tight to the point I knew I was hurting him. If I have to suffer this much, I'm sure he can deal with a little pressure.
"Come on, sweetie. I know you can do it. You've come so far."
I know that he was trying to be supportive, but to me, he was just irritating at that moment. He wasn't the one that was being shredded into millions of pieces. Of course, I didn't want to tell him that, because even at my worst, his sensitive butt was just going to be offended to the point where he wouldn't speak to me for days. I couldn't deal with his immaturity now, could I? After I was done birthing that monstrosity of a baby, they let me hold her. It was a baby girl. Miracle, I said. Her name is going to be Miracle. The symbolic name meant a lot to me, and I hope it'll mean a lot to her too. After the countless doctors I had to go to throughout the last 3 years, and the time it took bringing her into this world, which felt like decades, I hope she appreciates her mother. The doctors put her in one of those incubators. I was made very well aware of the situation that she was going to be in and what her chances of survival were. Do you know what it was like when they told me the baby had died? After a few hours of fighting for her life, all that effort and suffering, and for what? My heart was mercilessly shattered into countless agonizing shards. I only got to hold her once for a few seconds before she was taken away from me forever. My beautiful Miracle, my baby. I'd opt for childbearing her 100 more times than this. Sometimes I even wondered if someone had physically torn my heart from my chest. Maybe she even did it. I do not know at this point. The doctors were right. I should have just aborted her. I would have spared myself and my entire family so much suffering. I was selfish to think I'd ever be a biological mother. I broke Matt now too, as well as my mother. She arrived at the hospital 10 minutes after her granddaughter had died. She never even got to see her alive. My mother hasn't talked to me since. She didn't even come to check on me. She probably thinks it's my fault. after we arrived home from the hospital. Matt's been doing his best to not show his sadness and to be strong and supportive. But I know it's there. I know it's there because every night I hear him leaving our bedroom to cry in the living room. I wish I could just go there, hug him and tell him that everything is going to be okay. But I can't. I can't because I'm a mess myself, physically and emotionally, and I'm the reason he's there bawling his eyes out. It hurts so much to know what a horrible wife I've been. The funeral was a complete mess. I saw so many people crying there. The bastards didn't even know my child. They'd never even seen her, and yet they were shedding tears as if their child had died and not mine. It was a disgrace. It was impressive even. Their crocodile tears are unquestionable proof that if they'd pursued the media, they would have become successful and famous in a quick time. So many of them were like, "I'm so sorry, and I'm here for you," as if that were true. You know who didn't shed a single tear? Me. Do you know why? Because I had other plans. Maybe I can't bring my child back, but what I can do is make a doll. In the funeral home, I demanded that they leave me alone with my child. They were highly against that, as me being alone would be too emotionally distressing for me. They were right. So many mothers complain because their children cry too much. What about my baby that's never going to let another sound come out of her mouth ever again? They're so ungrateful. They don't deserve their children. They don't know what it's like to lose a child, to lose a part of your soul, part of my soul that I was going to bring back soon. When my baby was born, there was hair on her head. This is something that doesn't happen often, but I was fortunate enough as this gave me the chance to cut some of her hair. Hair that I was going to put in the custom Reborn I had ordered the day my baby was pronounced dead. Maybe the doll can't call me mama or cry, or even move, but it was all that I had left. What else was I supposed to do? I can't just give birth to another child, and I still don't want to adopt. I can't get pregnant anyway. And plus I can't bear having it in my stomach, then going through the hell of giving birth to it just for it to die a few hours afterward. I paid $16,999 for that doll. Keep in mind that was all the money I had saved up since being together with Matt. If my husband was to leave me, I'd end up homeless. I hadn't waited for a package like that ever since I was a child. I couldn't sleep, and the day of the estimated arrival I woke up at 5 o'clock. I waited for a few more hours until I saw the man arrive with my order. I didn't even wait for him to enter our property. The moment I saw him through the window, I ran out of the house to reach him. He probably thought I was crazy running toward him like a serial killer, but I don't care. I yanked the blue fancy box out of his hands, and I didn't even bother to really observe his facial expression, which I can only assume was pure weirded out. I tore the packaging like a tiger tearing apart its prey, and the delivery guy just left, praying that I don't go after him next in case I didn't get what I was expecting. Luckily for me, the Reborn was beyond perfect. It was an exact replica of my child that I wasn't given the opportunity to really appreciate. Her eyes were open, as that was my exact request. I wanted to be able to stare at her dark hazel eyes for as long as I am walking this earth. Her hands were so small, and her cheeks were chubby and adorable. My eyes filled up with tears, but not out of sadness, instead of complete happiness. Now it's not the time to cry, I thought to myself. You finally have your baby back. Call me crazy all you want. The moment I held that doll in my hands, all of the sadness, pain, and grief faded away. The only thing I wondered is how would Matt react once he saw her. I was scared at this point. I spent a ton of money on her, and I doubt that he'd like that. I guess I'm just going to have to lie to him, as it's my money after all. He has no idea how much or how little I had in the first place. I went on through the entire day just staring deeply into her eyes while I was rocking her, swinging on my rocking chair. When Matt came from work, he was shocked to see me in the living room with a baby in my hands. I guess he was expecting to see me just lying in my bedroom like usual, doing nothing but rotting away, and that is why he didn't even greet me properly, and instead just asked,
"Honey, what are you holding?"
I looked at him, pretending I hadn't heard the front door open. "Oh, hey sweetheart, you're back. This is just a Reborn," I said. He approached us, and the look on his face when he saw an exact replica of his daughter was priceless. His eyes widened, and his mouth opened like he had seen a ghost.
"Sweetie, that looks exactly like our baby."
I know. I mean, she cost $17,000 for a reason. I said with a smile as I moved my head upwards to look at my husband's gorgeous face.
$17,000? What the fuck? You gave $17,000 for that?
For what, Matt? For our daughter?
Sweetie, that isn't our daughter. That's just a doll.
We had a rather big argument. I didn't want my baby to wake up because of him, so I just ran to our bedroom, silently crying. I knew that he wouldn't understand. He barely ever does. I heard him leave through the front door. I wonder where he was going this time. I tried calling my mom for some emotional support or something, but my calls were never answered. I wonder why. A few days had gone by, and nothing was heard from either my mom nor my husband. That is until I heard that on the news there were 2 car accidents.
2 vehicles collided in a dramatic crash at the intersection of Willow Street and Pine Avenue, a serene locale in the heart of Oakwood Heights. The incident took a sinister turn as investigators discovered the numbers 16999 scrawled in blood on the road near the wreckage, raising suspicions of foul play. Tragically, both vehicles erupted in flames, resulting in the horrific deaths of the occupants, leaving the community in shock. Authorities are now urgently probing whether this was a deliberate act, leaving the town with unsettling questions about a potentially larger, more sinister motive behind the incident.
I looked down at the doll in my hands again. There was a smile on her face.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more nightmare fuel. Good night.